Nebraska's wheat farmers are making progress harvesting this year's crop. While still behind the normal pace, farmers advanced 17 points over the past week to total 18% completion. That wheat straw could provide another feed source for the state's cattle. But Nebraska Extension beef specialist Rick Rasby says heavy precipitation events could be shifting the qualities of some of the state's other forages. As a whole, Nebraska is 3 points behind its 5-year average for the first cutting of alfalfa and 11 points off the average in the second cutting. We talked with Rick earlier this week to ask what producers need to know about how moisture could affect the resulting hay crop.
You know, we never cuss rain, because we've been in a situation sometimes where we haven't had any rain, and so rain is always welcome, and you don't want it to shut off. But yeah, it's been a challenge. As wet as the spring has been, it's just been a challenge to get up good quality forage, and a lot of that's they try to put it up between rains, and sometimes it's been rained on. And so I think as you look forward, the idea from a cow-calf producer standpoint is that as we get into the fall, you sure enough want to sample those and get a nutrient analysis and get a good idea of what you have. And so from a nutrient analysis standpoint, for cow-calf producers, check for crude protein, energy in the form of TDN, and then moisture would be the three things I'd have you test for.
Could it be drastically different than what you might anticipate because of the weather?
I think it could be. The thing is that it looked like to me that it was just difficult to get that hay down early enough when it was in I would say a semi-vegetative state. And so it's hard for me to take a look at a bale and say this is the quality of that bale. And I think that's the reason why we'd have you take a forage sample and send it in. Any
storage considerations to take into account as you try to keep that for a couple months?
Yeah, I tell you, some of it was put up pretty wet, and if we continue to have challenges and you get up wet forage, understand that there's some heating that goes on in that bale, and so excessive heating can lead to combustion, and so the idea would be to store it somewhere where if it does combust, you don't lose the whole stackyard, if you will. And so I think those kinds of considerations always need to be kept in mind.
As we see wheat harvest rolling across Nebraska, would that be another feed source that producers could consider?
We've used wheat straw in a lot of situations. The nice thing about wheat straw is that it combines nice with distillers grains. And so if you may be short on forages as you move into the wintertime, the idea of, as you think about moving into the wintertime, having wheat straw is probably a good thing to have, especially if it's priced economically. And again, it does fit real nice with distillers grains.
Distillers grains could be an option then again this year, maybe?
It could be. You take a look at the recent prices of distillers grains, they've gone down. In fact, they're much lower than they were last year. And they're low price-wise compared relative to corn. And so we know that distillers grains is a good protein source and a good energy source. Sometimes it's a challenge to store, especially if you buy it up during the summertime. But modified will store really well without adding any forage to it. But you get into the wet, you probably need to add some forage to it to store it in a bunker or to store it into an ag bag.
The UNL Beef website has more information on storing ethanol byproducts. You can find a link to that on the Market Journal homepage.